Okay, joining us now, Stephen Koukoulas from Market Economics. Stephen, great to see you. A lot of commentators, economists saying that there is too much focus being placed on a surplus, but is that missing the point that Josh Frydenberg and others continue to make, and that is, while things are sluggish, the economy is still growing?
The economy is growing, but it's not growing very rapidly. Yeah, the GDP numbers that we saw last week, 1.7% annual growth, that's not good enough. We should be near 3% annual growth. So I can see where the commentary is coming through. And the budget surplus objective, it is by definition achieving a surplus, sucking money out of the economy, probably when it needs to have some money pumped into it. So look, if I was Treasurer, I'd be probably more inclined to be putting a little bit of that surplus into the economy, locking in a better economic growth performance in 2020. But the politics, of course, are powerful. Running budget surpluses will be a real ace of hearts for the government in the next election if they can deliver that budget surplus.
And to start paying down debt. And we talk a lot about sentiment in the economy. So much of GDP is consumer spending, and what we as consumers spend. We're coming into the December period, Christmas of course. Is there a hope, do you think, that people will open their wallets, particularly in this festive season? Yeah,
there's a bit of mixed news on that, because apparently the Retailers Association and others were sort of saying that the Black Friday sales at the end of November were really strong, that we Australians sort of joined that spirit. We spent a lot of money, and so probably the November monthly retail sales numbers will be pretty strong. Into December, because we have saved a lot of those tax cuts and interest rate cuts, we've put them off our mortgage and the like. So we've got a bit of cash up our sleeve, so to speak. Now, whether we're going to spend it is going to be the big question. One other thing that I've also heard is that the smoke in Sydney is causing people to stay at home and perhaps not spend as much as if the weather was clear, if you know what I mean.
It makes
sense.
There
is this thing. So it's actually this sort of dilemma. I don't think you'd change economic policy on the basis of smoke around the Sydney neighbourhood, but again, it might just be another little issue that dampens consumer spending in that really important Christmas season.
One of the things, though, that underpins, I guess, a level of confidence about someone's economic situation is the price of the property or the value of their property, and the housing market's holding up really well.
Holding up really well. I'd say better than holding up. The Sydney-Melbourne price resurgence since that low point in the middle of the year is now 9%. That in the space of about 5.5 or 6 months...
They haven't made up all the losses, but it's well on the way.
Almost there. I reckon by the time we get to about March, all those losses will be regained. The other good part, or the other interesting part, I should say, about this house price resurgence, it's spreading to Brisbane. Prices are rising there. Adelaide, Hobart, Canberra, Perth might be finding a bottom in the price cycle. So while we focus on Sydney and Melbourne, of course, they're roughly 60% of the housing market. The other big cities are starting to tag along as well. So it's not just a Sydney-Melbourne issue. If house prices rise, as you sort of correctly touch on, there is a wealth effect. There is a confidence effect, and maybe this saving that's been put away with these tax cuts will be spent in the first half of 2020.
And the other thing on sentiment, I think, which the government would point to is the fact that if the government starts delivering surpluses at a macro level and starts paying down debt, that's obviously going to be a sign of, a reassuring sign, not just for the credit agencies, but for the business community.
It is. And people like budget surpluses. People like them. And now, again, you can have an academic and an economist argue about whether we have a surplus when the economy's weak. And that's sort of a very valid argument too. But politically, from a confidence effect, when Mr Frydenberg hands down not just my EFO next week, but the budget in May next year, if he's in a position to say, look, we have locked in this surplus, and we've locked in surpluses in the forward estimates, and we've got the trajectory for lower government debt, that's a very powerful message that he's going to be sending to the community, to the electorate, and to the business sector alike.
Stephen Koukoulas, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.